Rob Dauster here. I got Jeff Goodman with me.
Hell no.
John Fink.
Are we still live?
Field of 68 till I die.
I'm sorry, man. I blacked out.
Randolph Children.
DJ Khaled, you know the big DJ Khaled guy?
Hands thrown up and in.
Goodman needs to be fired all the time.
Josh Pastner.
You're going to beat people straight up.
You know the deal.
They have no swag. They have no nothing.
Terrell McNeil.
From the bluest of the blue bloods to the smallest of the mid-majors.
This is Field of 68 after dark.
Hello and welcome to the Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman. We are live from Neville Arena here in Auburn, Alabama. We just watched number 22 Kentucky beat number 13 Auburn 70-59. We have a lot to get to here. It was the second part of our doubleheader today, Jeff. We did the Alabama doubleheader.
Feels like days ago.
Months ago, years ago.
Yes.
We were at Coleman Coliseum for Alabama's 100-75 win over Texas A&M, which we weren't there at the end. We left it about 7 minutes left because it was a blowout. We missed Alabama running up the score on Texas A&M.
They did run up the score.
A couple
Jacking threes at the end.
Jacking
4
threes,
seconds left.
Yeah, firing away. It was a fun day, a thoroughly enjoyable day. We watched UConn on the drive. I almost got car sick. Didn't feel great.
You honestly are the worst person to watch a UConn game with, probably including Danny Hurley.
Well, it was a lot easier because it was a blowout. I will talk all about UConn and what that means for them here just a couple minutes. It was a rough evening for me, though, Jeff. I'm not going to lie. I'm hurting a little bit. I lost to a dog in the vaulted challenge bracket.
You did.
I lost to Zeus, which is it's never great when you lose to a dog.
I won the vaulted challenge.
Yeah, you did. You went undefeated, and Our guy, Paul Stobby from Vaulted, wants to get you a championship belt. If he does that, Paul, I'm out. I'm done.
I will wear that belt everywhere.
I know.
Everywhere.
Paul, I'm out if he gets a championship belt.
By the way,
making that clear.
Right over here and behind us was the jungle.
Mm-hmm.
The jungle wasn't that loud tonight, Rob. You know why? Because Kentucky pretty much controlled this thing from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
This was a shocker.
We have a surprise guest.
No, I never said that Nerdlander could come on.
For the people listening,
I never agreed to this.
For the people listening on Sirius XM, for the people that are listening to this on more of us on a podcast platform, Norlander's got to turn his mic on. We have Matt Norlander of Ion College basketball fame. Let's start off with this, Matt.
Yeah.
Can you name a more surprising outcome this season than Kentucky coming into this building, a team that we said all week, Jeff, would win the Final Four, would win the national title if it was played in Neville Arena, coming into this building, holding them to 59 points and finding a way to win in this style?
Yes, Northwestern beating Purdue.
That's pretty high up. That is pretty high up. But the fact that you had Kentucky holding Auburn, 30.9% shooting, the lowest field goal percentage Kentucky's had of an opponent the entire season, the second worst points per possession opponent for Auburn. Trivia time. What was the only game Auburn was worse from the field points per possession, Goodman? Can you define what points per possession means?
Yeah, like it's this huge formula that it goes in. And I could probably get my calculator and figure it out.
Mississippi State actually got it done. But it was very surprising. A wire-to-wire win. And, yeah, this building has a reputation as being one of the most intimidating environments. You said earlier you were here 5 years ago for this matchup and said it was on fire. Yeah. We never got that. Like, we had a couple of moments when Kentucky was getting a little bit threatened by Auburn, but I thought this was impressive. I just filed a column for CBSSports.com, and I'll talk about this on the Sunday night episode.
Filed the column?
CBS Sports is Ion. Yeah,
got to get those plugs in, Coach.
You remember when you used to do that?
I don't miss that at all.
Sunday night, Ion College basketball. We'll also get into this, more of us than there are of them. But in that column, what I said was the fact that you got this performance on the road after what they did against Ole Miss, I think you've got at least reason to believe that Kentucky can be a factor in March. And if it is, if we look up in a month, and this is a trendy, this will be where the
you are saying this is the turning point.
If it's going to be a trendy team,
definitively,
that trend will have started right here.
Definitively,
semi-definitively.
Okay, thank you. No, listen, they were great tonight. They were great, and I think the biggest takeaway for me is like again, their manhood was kind of questioned coming to this. Right, you're soft. You don't guard. You can't guard. That's all they heard about. You lose 3 straight at home, and the way they lost them, again, you broke it all down. I mean, they probably watched your video. Your video might have been the reason because what you said was, I think I quote you in saying, like, they can't fix this.
I don't know if it was fixable.
You said that.
Here's what happened.
They fixed it.
Yeah, here's the difference. One, Go look at the box score. How many minutes did Ugonna Onyeso play tonight?
A lot.
36 minutes.
A lot.
Oh, he had to because, again, no Trey Mitchell, which is another huge factor that they were able to do this.
But is it?
I think it helps. I think it helps them defensively that Trey
Totally
Mitchell's
does.
there. And Trey Mitchell's a great player, and I think that
he's not a good defender.
He's not what Onyeso is. And I think that they found something these last two games, right? And I will see if this is something that Cal leans into. One thing that we have seen this year is the success that Kentucky has had playing this more up-tempo spread style. Like, he's leaned into it, right? And now I think we know what their best lineup is, right? It's Onyeso at the 5. It's a Adu Thoreau at the 4 with any of the 3 guards. You could throw any about that.
I think
Reeves, Shepard, Dillingham,
Reeves, and Dillingham.
Right. Wagner off the bench.
I would make the argument that Wagner is the best defender out of the 3.
Because he's big and strong.
And he gets he will light people up and he will get up in you defensively. But I think that we saw them find something here. And my question is, are they going to lean into that? Are they going to be able to make this be something that continues? Because, look, frankly, with what we know they can do offensively, if they can do what they did tonight on the defensive end, like Cal at the end of the press conference tonight said, it was Bruce Pearl said, if Kentucky guards like that, they can beat anybody. Right. But he phrased it. They could beat everybody.
No, Cal at the end of his press conference was telling us about how many All-Stars were in
It was a very, random aside here. Like, he was kind of getting going. He got on this All-Star
because he already had it in his head.
And he did, and then he just left the presser. He was like done. I thought he'd want to stick around because he had an interesting quote to start off where he was like, leave my players alone, keep attacking me. And I think between that and then what Onyeso said in the presser, I think they had a lot of that noise playing for Kentucky. They had heard a lot of it, and for them to be this geared up, I mean, Reeves said it in the locker room. He's like, "No, we knew how much this meant, and the energy was."
What was really interesting? What they said after the game is that part of why they play better on the road is that there's an expectation of them winning at home. And I think it was Reeves that said it, where we're looser when we're on the road because people are expecting us to win.
Said that too.
There's less pressure on them, and I think that's kind of where you see some of the freshmen come out, like some of the youth on this team, where when they are at home and you have that expectation, you have 24,000. Like, I was there for the Tennessee game. Like, that place was rocking.
Yeah.
Right. Rupp is not always the greatest environment to walk into. It can be quiet sometimes when it's not a huge game. It was rocking against Tennessee. You could ask Kyle Tucker. He was here with us tonight, and he said that that 3-game stretch, it was as loud as any 3-game stretch that he's heard in Rupp, and they lost all 3 of those games.
Hey, by the way, you know what? I forgot to ask Cal, or if I ask you in front of Cal, is he still in the hot seat?
Is he? Look,
Dauster put him in the hot seat, literally at Rupp Arena. At Rupp Arena after the Tennessee loss, he put him on the hot seat.
So he's doing what I do. Misquoting me on purpose. It is what it is.
You deserve it.
You deserve it. I deserve that one. No, it was. If they are, let's kind of go big picture on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have all reached this conclusion where UConn and Purdue are the 2 best teams in America. If we can say that the defense that we've seen out of Kentucky these last 2 games, and just say like it's happening the next but
you can't.
I have a thought on this, but continue.
But
say that their A game, their A game is probably the 3rd best team in the country.
Can you let him finish? Please?
Yes. Let me
let him
set
finish
the question.
But I'm saying
you can respond.
I know what you're going to say.
Okay. What am I going to say?
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
there you go.
This is incredible podcasting, by the way.
If they are going to guard at this level, where do they rank?
My caveat is they cannot consistently guard at this level.
Probably
Even
true.
Calipari said in the presser, it is a game-to-game thing, and he meant in terms of the deployments he's going to use and all that. However, I think if you can get this every other game, I think collectively that will give Kentucky the momentum. It's not going to go into March without having another loss. That you have these kind of performances, I think it does matter significantly. They didn't need Reed Shepard to be absolutely incredible tonight. They didn't need Dillingham to be ridiculous on the road here. They tapped into something defensively where they can't do this moving. Like, we have seen years upon years. How many times can you ever remember a team that was pedestrian on defense for the first 3 months of the season, then they turn it on defensively? It doesn't happen. But
the only time it did, there's one time it did. It was Duke in 2015. You know what Duke in 2015 did? Yeah, you guys remember this. In January, I remember very specifically. In January, Miami went into Cameron Indoor Stadium and put up like 96 on them and embarrassed them, right? And that was on a Monday night that was coming off of a Saturday game where they gave up 85 to somebody. It was like 2 games in 3 days. They just got blitzed. They dropped to like 78th or something like that on KenPom. And then whatever it was, they flipped the switch. They put it all together. What does that Duke team and this Kentucky team have in common?
They got pros.
A bunch of freshmen.
Yes.
A whole bunch of freshmen.
And they have pros. If they can get a little more consistency, then they've got a chance there. I still don't think they're true national title contender because I did a story on this about a month ago. There's never been a team that's been this average offensively in the past 25 years that has won a title. A few have made the Final Four, Miami last year, but no team that's sub 40 defensive KenPom has gotten even to the title game.
We both know the answer to this.
Yes.
What's the worst defensive team that has won a national title heading into the tournament since in the KenPom era? You know the answer.
Since 97.
Since 97. Do you know who it is?
No.
You're going to be shocked by the answer.
Really? The best player on the team is on our network. He kicked your ass
Seriously?
in ping pong.
Really? That Carolina team?
That Carolina team was the worst defensive team according to KenPom's.
Because Hansbrough can't
metrics.
guard.
Yep.
But,
we're gonna get to Antonio Reeves' interview here in a second, but I just want to add. I'm curious your guys' thoughts on this. I don't think that they have to be this good defensively.
Agreed. Right? I agree with that
because of what they are.
Offensively.
Their ability to score the ball. What they need to be able to do is win games when they're with their defense on the nights where they kind of get stuck in the mud a little bit offensively. And I think that's what we saw tonight. That's kind of what we saw against Ole Miss. Like, can they win games with toughness?
They got to be consistently average defensively. Don't be awful. Don't give up 90. Because if you're going to give up 90, honestly, you're going to get out. You're going to get bounced from the tournament.
Now, but okay. They beat Ole Miss at home. But Mississippi has not been a metric star in the entire season. We'll see on that. And then Auburn, it has been better as of late, but it did get boat raced at Florida, and so you have that's here. So
their point guard play is so underwhelming to me.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into Auburn in a second. So
okay.
we were able to catch up with Antonio Reeves after the game. Let's go to that interview right now.
All right, Antonio. You guys had obviously a lot of people talked about your defense. It wasn't good for a while.
Yeah.
But you come out, you give up 59 on the road, one of the toughest atmospheres. Why? What were you able to do to flip this thing?
Man, just be more physical. I told the guys before the game, definitely it's gonna be a dogfight out there. We got to lock in, stay together, and we got to throw the first punch. A couple games we started off a little, short, and the other team got up on us, but this game was different. I could just feel the energy shifted, between the guys, between the freshmen.
I mean, it's crazy. They never really put any big game pressure on you. Like, you never really let him get close.
Yeah.
Got to 5, and then you hit that big 3.
Yeah.
Where would you rank this win this year? You've had a lot of good wins, but how big was this one because of everything that kind of led up to it?
I'll say top 3. It was a big win. Coming into this atmosphere, it's definitely tough. You really can't hear anything. So, I rate this, win at least top 3.
I said it to you after the South Carolina game, how much I think you've grown as a leader, not just on the court, because you've expanded your game.
Yeah.
Right? But as a leader, how important has that been for you with these young guys? I mean, you're without Trey today, tonight.
Yeah. Man, I just make sure these guys, stay together. That's what it's really all about. They freshmen, they never came to these atmospheres before. And that's when I step in and be the big brother, So, definitely telling these guys before every game, you can't just let up on any team because any team could beat you. On the road, at home, anything like that. So, yeah.
Last question for you. How good can this team, if you get going, you feel like you can beat anybody, but also you can kind of lose to anybody?
Yeah, for sure. You can lose to anybody at any given time. But if we stay together like we did today, we could beat anybody in the country, I feel like. So, that's our next step. Just go game by game and, just try to stick together and gel together like we did. So, yeah.
All right, congrats. That's one hell of a performance, one hell of a win.
That was Antonio Reeves, who had 22 points tonight and was the star of the show. And we probably at some point we'll come back to this a little bit later, but we talked about how Neville wasn't very loud tonight. He was the silencer.
Yeah, he was
the absolute silencer. I think he made 8 shots. I would say 7 of them were run stoppers that kind of ended the Auburn push. He was so good. We'll come back to that. I do want to hit on Auburn here. And Norlander, since you are our guest, I'm going to go to you first because I am polite, unlike some people here.
I'm very polite.
Are you? First of all, what we don't know, we don't have an update on Jalen Williams. Pearl did not sound very optimistic, but he said they have to get him into the MRI. So it doesn't.
He said it's going to be an extended period of time. This isn't. Listen, if he comes back this season, with the way Bruce was sounding, I think we'd all be surprised.
I agree with that. With how Bruce was leaning with that, if it is not season ending, it will be good news for Auburn. Mm-hmm. He's obviously their second best player. But you were about to tee me up until he interrupted you.
Yeah,
so go ahead.
What is this? Does this tell you anything about Auburn, or is this just Kentucky coming in, living up to their hype, and having one of those moments that Kentucky teams can have?
I think it's an indictment on Auburn that you allow a Kentucky team that had been suspect defensively to come into your place where you had not lost in 16 games, hadn't lost the season at all. And after you had just like, they're coming off a 40 piece of South Carolina, like aberrationally good, no doubt about it. And you just almost wonder if they, they just got too into themselves after that kind of game, thinking they would be able to run Kentucky here. And that just was not the case whatsoever. They were also, and I talked with Bruce a little bit earlier in the day, and he admitted, listen, Kentucky's 5 versus our 5. Like, they've got all this talent, their size. We're going to need to be able to go deep and try and get them to get out in a game where they're going to run and force them into turnovers. Didn't happen. I think Kentucky had 12 to Auburn's 11 there. So you could clearly see, Goodman mentioned it before about Auburn's guards. It remains an issue. Like, the trajectory of Katie Johnson's college career is fascinating. And he needs to be a more impactful player, and he's not. And
he can't shoot.
It's
Aiden Holloway can't shoot.
Yeah, I know, it's bad. It's a real problem there. Yeah. So if
the frustrating part of it is Aiden Holloway can shoot.
I know.
It's all in his head right now.
Yeah, he can shoot, but I mean, look, that's what freshmen are supposed to do. Like, they're supposed to come in and struggle a little bit. I say this all the time, but like, the aberration for what's going on with Kentucky is their freshmen, right? Justin Edwards is the norm. Rob Dillingham, Reed Shepherd, those guys, they're the ones where you should be saying, like, celebrating them. Anyway, sorry.
No, it's all good. I mean, 59 points on your home floor against a Kentucky team that going into the game was 102nd in defensive efficiency at KenPom. It just can't happen, and this is the kind of result where, if you really step back and look big picture, Pearl took this team to a Final Four in 2019. They got the banners and logos all over this place. You drop this kind of game after the Florida side swipe, it's reason for hesitation. On top of, like, if Jalen Williams isn't available, he's the second best player on the team.
That's bad.
So this is a rough night for the Tigers, no doubt about it.
Yeah. The one thing that I would add is I find it very interesting that Auburn, 4 days after scoring 100 points in this gym against a team that was tied for first place in the SEC, goes for 59. And Kentucky, the last time I saw them, they gave up 100 in their own building to Tennessee. We got 59 points out of Auburn tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that's kind of life in college basketball for most teams this year, right? I mean, Auburn played their A game the other day. And really, if you look closely at Auburn's resume, it's not that good. It's really not that good.
They kind of are a metric starling.
They are.
They've overachieved.
Going into
They've overachieved this year. When you see them in person, you look at them and you're like, okay. And really, to be honest, I thought Bruce should have went to Janai Broome way more than he went in the post.
Well, you know what
especially when Onyensu had 3 fouls.
The hard part about going to a big guy is you got to have guards that can get the ball to the big guy. And to me, that's kind of what the situation was.
Like, it shouldn't be that hard. He had guys sealed. He had guys sealed, and they looked at him and they didn't get him the ball.
There were
and then when they did
the problem is when you have a guy sealing, and I'm out here, and DJ Wagner has forced Trey Donaldson 30 feet away from the basket, and he's pressuring him, and you're dribbling like this.
Sure.
Like, that is a hard pass
to make.
So
but there were times when that wasn't the case, and they missed.
I'm willing to give more of that credit to Kentucky defensively.
One last thing from me. I just think that Auburn would have played better. They would have looked better if they were in orange tonight. That's what I thought.
Yeah, I mean, we all look good in orange. I mean, let's face it.
Listen, when we come back, Kentucky wasn't even the most impressive win of the day, guys. UConn was. They beat Marquette. Top 5 battle, 81-53. We're going to break that down here in just a second.
As you guys know by now, we've partnered with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 as we all get ready for the best month of the year, March Madness. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use the bonus code FIELD150 and you will get $150 in free bets on your first wager with BetMGM, regardless of whether or not you win that first bet. Here's the best part. All you need to do is deposit and bet $5 of your hard-earned money. This is how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code FIELD150. That's FIELD150. Deposit at least $5 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $150 in bonus bets regardless of the outcome of your bet. Just make sure you use that bonus code FIELD150 when you sign up. And remember, BetMGM is now available in one wallet in select states. As a New Jersey resident, this is super convenient when I have to go cover games in Philly or New York, which happens quite a bit. When you cross state borders, you just log into your existing account and fire away. You don't have to create a new account in each state. It's easy, it's simple, and it's clean. And most importantly, we have some fun stuff coming up for the conference tournaments and for the NCAA tournament. Bet insurance tokens, college hoops odds boost, and my personal favorite, a nice little parlay boost here and there. So download the BetMGM app and sign up today.
Well, welcome back to the Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark, live from Neville Arena here in Auburn, Alabama. We did our Alabama doubleheader. Rob Dauster, Jeff Goodman, Field of 68. We're live.
If you hear the ball bouncing, it is who, Rob?
Dylan Cardwell is here working on, I think it's just free throws, jump shots he's shooting around. As you can see, we are on the floor of Neville Arena here. Sirius XM, Channel 84. We're live over on YouTube. Make sure you jump in the chat. Ask us some questions. We are going to talk about UConn's win over Marquette today. Number one,
Smile,
UConn.
Rob. Smile.
81. Number 4, Marquette, 53. And, Jeff, it was 18-18 with 9:15 left in the first half.
Yeah.
And UConn outscored Marquette 24-8 in the final 9 minutes. And in the second half, it just never got close. They put their foot on the gas, and they just never stopped running. Hassan Diarra had 14 points, 5 boards, 4 assists off the bench. Cam Spencer finished with 14 points, 6 boards. Tristan Newton, 15 points, 8 boards, 8 assists, 5 of 10 from the floor. Outplayed Tyler Kolek. Donovan Clingan, 17 and 10. There isn't one guy on this team that you could point to that took over to win the game for them. This was UConn at their absolute best.
Well, yeah, it was an ass whooping. And as you said, that's the beauty of this UConn team. That is what makes this UConn team so damn good, is like their balance. They can get production from everybody, from like 1 to 8. Even Jalen Stewart came in and gave him some really good minutes in the first half, right?
Yeah.
Like they've got dudes that, again, just know their role, but can play above their role when needed. Like if Tristan Newton's having an off game, they can have somebody step up. They're not reliant on 1 or 2 guys, where I think so many teams, right, are relying on that.
Yeah.
Most teams.
Marquette included.
Marquette
Included.
especially.
Yeah.
Because, again, if Tyler Kolek doesn't play an A or a B game, they can't beat good teams. They can't. So UConn knew that. You can focus really your defense, and you should anyway, on Tyler Kolek. But those other guys aren't really capable. The Joplins of the world, they're not the same level as UConn's. I don't even know who's UConn's 4th best player.
They don't. The thing that's amazing about them is their starting 5 is, I don't think that you can point to them
balanced
and say that they have a best player. Right? Like Tristan Newton's going to be the guy that gets all the accolades. He's the only player in college basketball averaging 15.6 boards, 5.5 assists. He's the point guard. He's the guy that was the best player in the national title game last year. Like he's going to get the credit. Donovan Clingan is the returnee, the local kid, the lottery pick,
and the defensive
anchor.
Yeah,
like
the guy
he makes
that
everything
changes
happen. But you know what happened tonight? UConn made their run when he was on the bench because they tried to play the drop coverage against Tyler Kolek, and you can't play drop coverage against Tyler Kolek and also Iguodala because they will eat you up. They are studs. Okay, so they put Samson Johnson in, and he did the hard hedging thing, and they blew up the ball screens, and they basically eliminated Tyler Kolek. And you know what happened? Marquette didn't really have an answer. So they really
don't. I mean, they really don't. Like Cam Jones,
we'll get to them in a
Cam
second.
Jones has to be able to do a little bit more with the ball in his hands.
What it is? I was talking with another coach after watching the game, and we didn't talk enough about them losing Sean Jones and the impact that has on this Marquette team for 2 reasons. One, there is no backup point guard right now. Like you can't really play Stevie Mitchell there. Like Cam Jones is not he's a bucket. He's not a point guard.
Right.
Also is a playmaker, but like he's your 5.
So does Kolek. I mean, today it didn't happen,
not
but does he wear down too?
It's not just wearing down. You can't even. It's hard to play anybody 38, 40 minutes a game, right? but you can't even spare him a couple of minutes playing off the ball and just letting him like kind of stand there and catch a ball, be the second side creator, be more of a threat, even a decoy. Everything has got to come through him for 40 minutes. And that's a really, really difficult thing to ask when you are going up against a team that has 4 guys that they can rotate through, that can climb up in you and make your life miserable. So I think that is, it's a backup point guard, right? But I think that kind of the impact that had on the way that the Marquette roster fits. I don't think that we talked enough about that. When it comes to UConn,
they're the best team in the country. Like I don't even hesitate now. I don't even hesitate, which is scary because like Purdue's damn good, right? They're at a different level, but I actually think now UConn has gone up a notch. So like I think it's clear now. Purdue has a better resume. I don't think you'd argue with that.
No,
but UConn's the team that, again, if you're telling me they're going to play a 7-game series, I'm going to say UConn's going to win 5 of them.
Against Purdue?
I really believe that. And again, Edie could destroy Klingon and get him in foul trouble, and, that changes the game. But I just feel like Purdue doesn't have as many answers as UConn. Again, and then you've got the culture. You've got that culture right now of winning, that they believe it. I'm not sure Purdue is going to go in. Well, we know they're not going to go in the tournament feeling the same way, feeling that same swagger.
I mean, here's the thing about it is you can it's a little bit different because you kind of didn't have as high of a seed heading in, but they kind of dealt with that last year, right? Like we talk about how they ran through the tournament, right? What people forget is in the first game, coming off of 2 straight years where they lost in the first game of the tournament, as it was an upset, where UConn fans were getting to the point where I don't know if this dude Hurley can go out and win big games, right? There were lots of questions. Like we kind of joke about it and say he would have been on the hot seat if he lost. No,
it would like he might have been legitimately if they lost to Iona and Rick Pitino in the first round this year.
Do you know what happened? If they lost in the first round game against Rick Pitino, who was winning at halftime?
Were they winning?
Iona was up at halftime.
Were they up?
And then in the first 3 minutes of the second half, Jordan Hawkins rips off 4 straight threes.
Blew them out.
And they go up 12, and they were like, "Oh wait, you know what? We're fucking awesome. Let's just go be awesome for the next 11 halves of basketball." And then they rolled through everybody. But there was that stress at the start, and that is what Purdue's going to end up dealing with. They get in the tournament, and UConn's not. It's almost there's a level of pressure that comes with being the national champion, right? But there's also something freeing about saying hey man, we already did this.
We did this. We know we can do this.
We can do this. We've been through it.
And I feel like Cam Spencer wasn't on that team, but he's got that swagger that it's like he was on that team.
He's
right?
out of his mind.
I mean, he talks a lot of shit, but he backs it up.
There's never been a player that fit more perfectly in a program than Cam Spencer
or with a coach
with Dan Hurley at UConn. Because him and Hurley are wired the same way, and UConn fans are wired that same way, right?
Yeah.
And so when you put it all together, you have this crazy coach, this insane player, 23-year-old that is damn good, right? Super efficient, really good defensively, really smart, knows where to be, doesn't make mistakes, and put it with a fan base that is going to go just as nuts for all this good stuff. It is a perfect storm. The XL Center was absolutely rocking tonight. And I think a lot of that was Marquette walking into a buzzsaw, right? I don't know. I mean, you probably could have had the Charlotte Hornets go up there and they might have lost to UConn tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody expected that type of performance.
Yeah, but it was walking into that building it's not going to be the easiest. So no one's if they lost by 20, no one was.
It's hard to game plan against UConn.
Yes,
that's the problem,
they
right?
Don't have a weakness.
If you think about it, and if you're an opposing coach, and I've talked to a bunch of these guys that have gone up against him, I'm like, how do you stop them? And they literally are like, I don't know, because you can't say, hey, we got to take this away or we got to take that away. Because if you do, you're making it easier. Okay, now with Castle, all right, leave him open, shooting threes. Give him uncontested threes. He makes them. He makes them now.
He makes enough.
He'll make you pay.
He makes enough. Hassan Diarra hit 2 tonight, and that was
a guy
guy
who can't generally shoot, right? But again, they're uncontested, and they're making them because I think honestly, Hurley's got them to whereas they believe they're going to make them.
Mm-hmm. And the other part of it, like I said this the other day, it's not last year with UConn. You were waiting for the avalanche. You were waiting for the run. You were waiting for that moment where the surge just started. And we kind of saw it tonight with this UConn team where they went on that 24-8 push at the end of the half, right? Like that's what last year's UConn did. You would be there, and then boom, all of a sudden you're down 16. You're like, what the hell just happened? But this was a little bit of an anomaly tonight for UConn, but for the most part, they just wear you down and wear you down and wear you down, and it's like you're down 5.
Because they don't have a Hawkins. They don't have somebody that can just go get Hawkins. Like 3. Hawkins could just bang 3 threes in a row, and
then
it would
Andre
change
Jackson could get like 2 steals and like
even Chinoga.
And Chinoga, you throw the ball like they just kind of wear you down.
They're not as dynamic. This year,
it's like
they're just solid in every phase.
Yeah, like the comparison that I made was it's like a boulder rolling downhill. It's like trying to stop a boulder from rolling downhill versus an avalanche coming at you.
Well, their ceiling isn't as high as last year, right? You would agree with that. Their ceiling isn't as high, but they're consistently really good.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. And I think that also makes them a little bit more dangerous because I don't know.
Well, nobody else has that. That's what I would say. Their consistency.
This is like arguing, like, what do you like more, vanilla ice cream or mint chocolate chip ice cream?
No, I mean, listen, it's just awesome. Amazing. It's amazing how quickly Dan Hurley has flipped this program and flipped the narrative on himself.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Yeah. That is absolutely 100% true. Listen, got to hit a break here. On the other side, we're going to be joined by one of our bracketologists, Rocco Miller, and we're going to talk about the top 16 seed reveal. We're also going to get a little into the conversation about the trip that we had to Alabama and Coleman Coliseum, and maybe even Innisfree. That's coming up next.
Big news, guys. I am thrilled to announce that we have partnered with Autograph, a company founded by the GOAT himself, Tom Brady. The Autograph fandom app gives you access to the best college hoops content, fan contests, and exclusive rewards like discounted tickets, all for doing the things that diehard fans like you already do, following your favorite team in the news and listening to podcasts just like this one. When Tom, and yes, I am calling him Tom, we're on a first-name basis these days, co-founded Autograph, he had one mission in mind: change the fan experience for the better. It works like this. You get all of your college hoops content you want in one place. You get articles from your favorite writers, pods from your favorite hosts, contests from your favorite creators, all on the feeds and the sites that you already enjoy. But instead of having to go to all these different places, it all comes to you in one spot, the Autograph fandom app. But here's the best part. The more content that you consume, the higher you rank in the app. As you consider to level up in status on the app, you can unlock unique rewards curated exclusively for you. So download the free Autograph app in the App Store and use the referral code F68, that's F68, or tap in at the link in the description below or in the podcast app of your choosing to start earning points for doing something as normal as listening to this very podcast. It really is that simple.
Welcome back to the Saturday evening edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster, and we have our own Fielding the 68 bracketologist, Rocco Miller, here to join us to break down the committee's top 16 seed reveal, what they got right, what they got wrong, and where they differ from our Fielding the 68 crew. Rocco, let's start with this. Biggest takeaways from the top 16 when you saw it?
I think the biggest takeaways were, the first surprise was seeing North Carolina as the top 2 seed. I think the 4 of us on the show, Fielding the 68, check us out Mondays and Fridays, 5:30 Eastern, right here on Field of 68, yeah, my pleasure. It was just the fact that we all agreed that North Carolina was kind of closer to a 3 seed. And I assumed in the moment that maybe they didn't take in the Syracuse game they lost on Tuesday into account. That happened a little bit last year. David Warlock quickly corrected me and said, no, we didn't start talking until Wednesday. So they factored that in. That leads me to believe that road wins mattered quite a bit to this committee. The one thing North Carolina has that really not a lot of teams have in any of the top 16 is a great 6-1 record in the top 2 quadrants, all true road wins. Same thing for San Diego State. And that's probably the biggest surprise is seeing them listed at all. We all agreed that they were a 5 seed, so out of the top 16. And the 2 things that stand out there are, one, their big wins away from home are Gonzaga in the Kennel and St. Mary's in their MTE in Vegas. And those are highly ranked net teams. St. Mary's is 14 in the net. Gonzaga's 22 in the net. But on the actual seed list, bracket-wise, Gonzaga's a bubble team. St. Mary's is maybe a 6 seed. So I thought, how impressive is it? Maybe this committee is a little bit more impressed by just your net ranking and wins away from home, which is kind of always the case. So I thought those were kind of the 2 initial surprises.
Rocco, all these Big 12 teams were kind of jumbled up there, right? You had Kansas at 8, obviously Houston's 3, Kansas 8, Baylor 10, Iowa State 11. I'm actually surprised that Iowa State's behind Baylor. I know they played not a very daunting non-conference schedule. Didn't get a lot there, but they were able to run their numbers up, and they've been very, very good in Big 12 play. How do you see it kind of shaking itself out with all those Big 12 teams? And to me, some of those other Big 12 teams, again, they've been higher. They've started to fall off a little bit. We're seeing it now, like BYU tonight, lose a game. Yeah. Are we going to see like these Big 12 teams where all of them are going to be protected?
Well, that's a great question. I think it's a mystery. And Iowa State being behind Baylor isn't exactly a great sign if you're an Oklahoma or a Texas Tech or a BYU or, gosh, there's so many of them, TCU, even Cincinnati. A lot of these teams, especially the ones that just joined the league for other reasons, scheduled really, really weak to just build up home wins. They knew they were going into a gauntlet of a conference. But you have so many, miserable non-conference strength of schedules. Iowa State starting at the top with the 322nd ranked schedule definitely played a factor in putting Baylor above. Baylor went out and beat Auburn in Florida on a neutral court. Again, I don't think that's as tough as maybe winning at Texas or at TCU. You could debate that all day. But this committee clearly seemed more impressed in that, and they gave Baylor credit for that. And I think that could be a bad sign for all those teams I just named down bracket as we see this play out next month.
All right, Rocco, which teams from outside the top 16 that weren't in the committee's reveal do you think have the best chance to kind of climb up into those rankings, maybe get up to a 2-3 seed? Is there anyone from outside that group that you're looking at and you're saying you got to keep an eye on them?
It would have to be a Big 12 team or maybe an SEC team. So I know South Carolina lost tonight, so they were close. Now they're further away. You look at maybe a Texas Tech. Again, they lost today too. So, but I think it's got to be – the answer to your question is teams that have the opportunity still, right? Clemson fell today, and I'm not sure how many more times they get a crack at Carolina or Duke. I know they've got a couple other big games left. So those were the teams I was looking at. Creighton's a team certainly has some chances, and they need some help on their resume a little bit. But with their power numbers, you throw some big wins in there, Creighton could ascend, I think. That's another good one. And then if Dayton's really done nothing wrong, but they're just not going to get the wins. I don't think they can get up to a 3, but they can probably get to a 4.
Yeah, Rocco, always a pleasure, my man. Enjoy your stay at the Holiday Inn Express.
That's right, baby. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
See you, Rocco. Thanks, man.
All right, let's get into the other SEC team that we were able to have a chance to see tonight, SEC game, I should say. We were down in Coleman Coliseum. We saw Alabama put it on Texas A&M. My single biggest takeaway from that game, from being in the building and watching them play in person, is that Mark Sears, I knew he was good. I knew he was in that All-American conversation. But, you see him in person, you see him play, you see how strong he is, you see how dudes bounce off of him. To me, I come away from that saying, he's in the conversation for, best point guard in the country. He's probably not the guy.
But he's in the top 5.
Yeah, if you're putting together a top 5,
right.
He's in it, and he probably ain't number 5.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Alabama is interesting because, again, the way they play, if they're making shots, and they were making them tonight. Rylan Griffin was terrific. Sears was really good early, and they didn't have to be great in the second half. He kind of let everybody else do some work. Again, I just don't know I think they can beat most teams, but I don't know if I completely trust them just because they're bigs. Their bigs worry the hell out of me. Again, if you told me they have Bediako back, I'd be like, okay, they can be a Final Four team. But without a veteran big, high-level big, and I think Stevenson can be that guy in time, but he's not there yet.
They're just not – they're not great defensively. They're good.
Well, they were good today.
They
were actually – this was one of their better efforts today.
They're good defensively.
Right. Did a great job on Wade Taylor.
There's moments they're better than they were. Yeah. Right? We've seen them get better.
They're going to outscore you, though.
They don't have guys where you know that they take pride in their defense is their thing. Right? Like the guy shooting right there behind us. Dylan Cardwell, dude like that.
Yeah.
A KD Johnson, right? They don't have, and I know we're
they need like one of those.
I just said like they need two guys from Auburn.
Well, they need some.
I know what I just did.
But
right
they
there.
need some dudes that will prioritize defense, and they don't have that, and they don't have a rim protector that can make up for that. That's the problem. If they had that guy, well, the other stuff wouldn't be so blatant.
Yeah, I'll make the comparison back to UConn where their perimeter, like Steph Castle's a dog defensively, but the other three guys, like Cam Spencer's a really good positional defender. He's not a great one-on-one dude.
No.
Tristan Newton is not a great one-on-one
Neither's
guy. Like Alex Caravan,
right.
That's who guys go to attack to beat them.
Yep.
Right? Like what did we saw tonight? What did Marquette do? Like they went to Tyler Kolek ball screens early, and they went to David Joplin one-on-one. That's what they tried to do. They tried to go at Alex Caravan. And
I like Alabama. Again,
but you know why
UConn's
UConn's defense works? Because they can get out there and they can pressure, knowing that they got the Great Wall of Bristol behind them, and you don't have that.
ClinCon,
the Great Wall, the Great Wall of Bristol.
Like, here's the thing. I mean, the job that both these guys that we saw today in the state of Alabama have done this year is amazing, because you look at up and down their rosters and you say, where are the pros? Where are the pros? Like, Mark Sears is going to be a really good overseas player. He is. I mean, maybe he'll make a team. Maybe, but I don't think he's going to be an NBA impact player if he makes a team, right? Like Stevenson could be one down the road. Auburn, who's the NBA player? Give me one. Go ahead, give me one. Find one.
I think Janai will be.
Yeah, again,
in the NBA.
Yes, he can make a roster.
I get your point.
He can make a roster. He could be in the G League. He could be overseas. None of it would. So I guess what I'm getting to here is both these guys have right now, Alabama could win the SEC. It just opened up for them a little bit more. It's probably be them in Tennessee.
I mean, they're the favorite.
It'll be them, right? But it'll probably come down to them in Tennessee.
You know what it is, though? I do think that it has helped that both of those guys, Bruce Pearl and Nate Oates, are really good at building a culture, really good at identifying guys that will fit into their style of play, and lean into that while also they understand the value in having older dudes. And I think that especially when you have the COVID year.
A couple young guys, though. You mix in a couple young guys.
Yeah, but when you have the COVID year, the fifth-year guys, and you have the immediately eligible transfers, you don't necessarily have to have all of the pros, because the pros are going to be 19 and 20. Like, let's just call it what it is, right? If you are an NBA player, you're not playing college basketball at 22.
True.
For the most part. And I think that they've been able to buy into this idea and get guys to buy into what they're doing, where they say, you could be 22 or 23. You're going to make some money with the NIL stuff, right? And you're going to come here and you're going to be an All-American. Like 5 years ago, is Mark Sears still in college? Maybe he's not the best example, but the guys at that level, like, I think they've figured out how to be able to get these guys to hang around and say, you know what, we got a 23-year-old who's an All-American, and while that dude, when he's 23, is going to be better than him, right now, he's not.
No, it's Aaron Estrada. Aaron Estrada is a great example of a kid that you're going to take him over a freshman that's probably more talented, but Estrada just helps you win games now. So you're never going to be young. Again, Sam Walters is young. Jaren Stevenson's young. Well, they don't lean on him for that much. They're pieces right now until their junior year, which Stevenson may not get there. But by the time those guys are juniors, and if they stick around, they're going to be all league guys.
Yep. All right. So we saw Auburn today.
Yeah.
We saw Kentucky today. We saw Alabama today. You have to take your life savings and you have to bet it on one of those three finding themselves in Phoenix for the Final Four. Who would it be?
Shit. That ain't easy. I mean, I don't want to bet it on any of them.
You have to.
I don't want to bet my life savings.
You have to.
I'm old.
Have fun. Play the game. You have to pick one of them.
Oh, my God. I mean, I guess I'll go with talent. I'm going to go with talent.
You taking Kentucky?
I don't want to. They scare the hell out of me. How could they not? You have no idea what you're going to get. Like, I feel better. Like Auburn, I know the things I'm going to generally get, but I think there's a ceiling. Alabama, it's kind of the same thing. Different teams. You got guys that can score at a high level. I'm never betting on that. I'm not betting on Alabama getting the Final Four because I'm not betting on a bad defensive team. Mm-hmm. Like Kentucky today and Ole Miss, they guarded. So I'll go Kentucky.
Do you remember what I said last week?
Yeah, you said Cal was in the hot seat.
And what else?
They can't guard.
And what else?
UConn's great.
No, that there's no chance that Kentucky makes the Final Four.
Yeah, I think
Guess
you did
what?
say that.
Guess
You're
what?
changing your mind.
I'm changing my mind again.
Well, that's the hard
it
part.
back.
People say
changing it
this
back.
to us all the time. They're like, they'll bring up something we said a month ago or 2 months ago. And, when you say like, hey, I don't think they can make it, Kansas for me, which I said the second game of the season, that they can't win it all. Things do change over the course of the year. Players get better, right? Or some regress. Some teams, Kentucky got out of the gates so strong that we thought because their freshmen were so good early, they were going to continue to get better.
It's not that they regress as much as teams kind of figure out what they're doing. And it's like, all right, so now we do this to solve that problem. Right. How do you switch back? Yeah. And for Kentucky, it was, you know what? We're just going to turn into the best defensive team in college basketball out of nowhere. Listen,
for one night.
Yeah, listen, when we got to get to the Big 12. There were some crazy results in the Big 12, and we have to talk about our man, Jared McCain. A Duke freshman record of 35 points, 7 for 8 from 3 in the first half. All of that coming up next.
What's going on, guys? Before we get back to the show, I need to let you all know about the Field of 68 Daily, an all-encompassing college basketball newsletter that arrives in your inbox, you guessed it, daily. For less than $1 a week, you'll wake up every morning to more than 1,500 words detailing everything that you need to know to stay up to date on the world of college basketball. From the notable mid-major upsets to the stars that are out injured to the breakout performances that only our team of college basketball junkies watched. The Daily is edited and produced by Mike Miller, who spent more than 2 decades running NBC's digital written content, and is subscribed by more than half of the Division I coaching staffs, the biggest names in college basketball media, and the agents that work as power brokers in the sport. For just $50 for the year, you get access to the same information that the insiders get. And before we get you back to your regularly scheduled Field of 68 content, let me tell you guys about the Field of 68 merch store. Head over to field68.shop for officially branded Field of 68 apparel. Whether you're supporting your favorite team in the student section or from the couch, there is no better way to gear up than the latest from the Field of 68. The best thing I can say about our merch is the quality of the product. Anyone that has ever worn a t-shirt knows how frustrating it is when the neck gets all stretched out and the bottom of the shirt starts looking like the bottom of bell-bottom jeans. And there's nothing worse than a hoodie that loses its snugness that makes it such a perfect way to stay warm during the cold winter weather. Whether you're shopping for yourself or for the college basketball fan in your life, everything you need is at the Field of 68.shop.
Well, welcome back to Saturday evening's edition of the Field of 68 After Dark. Jeff Goodman, Rob Dauster, Sirius XM, Channel 84. We are live from Neville Arena in Auburn, Alabama. And we're going to get to the Big 12 in a second. But I think the next biggest story after what happened in the SEC and what happened in Hartford, Connecticut, baby, number 1 in the country, UConn Huskies, is Jared McCain. So he had 35 points tonight. At Florida State, a Duke freshman record, which is kind of crazy if you think about it. He had 8 threes, which was also a Duke freshman record. Another thing that's kind of crazy when you think about it. And I told you this on the drive down to Auburn from Tuscaloosa. I guess the drive up, technically. Drive west?
Yeah, I don't know.
The drive. We'll just call it the drive. I don't know my directions.
It's not west.
That's
it's east.
That I think this is a really, really important performance from Jared McCain because Duke didn't have Tyrese Proctor tonight. And we kind of know what they're going to get from Jeremy Roach. And you kind of know what you're going to get from Kyle Filipowski. He's a little bit more up and down. But you know what they got for the rest of the roster? Like, they don't really have a guy especially in their backcourt, that we've seen be able to go off and just completely take over a game by themselves. Because outside of him, Duke didn't really play all that well tonight. How big is this performance from Jared McCain, and what does this mean for Duke moving forward?
Well, I mean, again, I think one of the things for Duke this year is we thought it was going to be the Kyle Filipowski and Tyrese Proctor show, right? We thought they were going to be the duo, and everybody's going to fill in around them. Jeremy Roach, Mark Mitchell, who's been terrific for the most part this year, McCain, maybe some Caleb Foster, right? Like I thought TJ Power might give him something. He hasn't. And then McCain, if you remember, had a really bad game at Champions Classic when Caleb Foster erupted. And everybody's like, oh, it's going to be Caleb Foster. Well, it's been McCain. I mean, McCain's been probably – I mean, again, listen, the great thing with Jared McCain is if Filipowski – like Roach can be Roach, and he can give you 12 or 14 a night. Some games he can give you a little bit more. But McCain is capable of being a guy that you can give the ball to and say, hey, go get me a bucket. You can't – it's hard to do that with Filipowski being a big, right? Like, and that wasn't Proctor when he was out there on the court. He just doesn't have that type of personality. They need a guy that you just, again, end a shot clock. You can make a play off the bounce. Like, I think he's a 3-level scorer for the most part, McCain. Well, not great mid-range yet. His mid-range still isn't. But, like, he can get to the basket. He's big, strong, can score, through contact. He obviously, as we've seen, he could shoot it from deep. Like, I just think he gives you another weapon that if Filipowski has one of these games, which he's had a bunch this year, that he struggled.
You know what it is? It's just that the thing that we always talked about with Kentucky early in the season was they have 4 different guys in their backcourt that can win a game by themselves, right? And I think that before today, we didn't really say that about Duke. Like we said, like Jeremy Roach, maybe. Like we haven't really seen it from Tyrese Proctor. Caleb Foster had like the one game, and then he's been fine. Like, he hasn't been bad, but he's been a freshman, right?
So do you think now that like McCain's done this, are you like, hey, you know what? Maybe it is a Final Four team.
I've kind of been leaning. It wasn't just today. Like I've kind of been seeing them consistently win, seeing them find a way to turn it around, seeing them just there's something about grinding out victories, even if it's not the prettiest thing that you've ever seen in the world, that you're like, okay, like just keep winning. Like all this stuff that we say
won
about
a lot of games lately.
Yeah, like we can say anything we want about Duke. They are currently tied for first place in the loss column, a half game behind North Carolina, in the win column for first place in the ACC. And I think 2 weeks ago we all would have said North Carolina, clear-cut best team in the ACC, top 3 team in America, closest team to UConn and Purdue, and Duke is tied with them for first place.
Can I ask you a question?
No.
How many games has Duke lost since December 2nd? When they lost to Georgia Tech on the road. How many games have they lost?
Haven't they won like 16 of the last 18?
2. Now, again, Pittsburgh at home was not a good loss. That was a bad one.
They were missing some people.
That was a bad one, yes. And then, the Carolina loss, which was really no major shame. Like,
yeah, it's losing at Carolina.
That's what I'm saying. And they weren't like blown out.
You're supposed to lose that game.
Right. So, like, to me, and you're right, like, against Duke.
I'm still not – like, the biggest thing with me, and we can kind of move on after this, but the biggest thing for me with Duke is that they don't – there's – Chris Mack made this point much more eloquently than I could, but, like, they just don't really have those dogs, right? But at a certain point, if you have enough talent, that doesn't necessarily really matter. So all I'm saying is I still think the concerns are the concerns. But I do think that knowing you have this guy that can go out and win a game for you, if you need him to win a game for you, is something that is an impact, and it has impacted the way that I view this program.
I think they're a Final Four caliber team now.
I think they can get there.
Right.
Like they can get there. They probably wouldn't be – I wouldn't call them a favorite, but they can –
Do you like – okay, Duke, Kentucky. Who are you taking right now? You got to put your entire 401k.
I think probably Duke, because I don't think the lows are as low as what you're going to see with Kentucky.
Right.
And in the tournament, it's not about the highs; it's about like the
consistency.
lows and how low are the lows going to be. All right, let's get into the Big 12. We got about 4 minutes left in the show here on Sirius XM. Houston blows out Texas.
Yep.
Kansas goes on the road. They get down early to Oklahoma. They find a way to win. They were down by 11 near the end of the first half, and they won by 10. And Iowa State
keeps winning.
They beat Texas Tech by 8. That game was a 20-point game for most of the late first half and second half. And they are tied for first place with Houston. At what point do we are you
for real?
Like it feels like whenever we have this conversation, it's like Houston can do this, Baylor can do this, Kansas can do this, and yeah, Iowa State's there.
It's the same thing. Like they're there, but we don't give them any respect, right? Like Keyshawn Gilbert's been awesome this year. We don't really talk about him that much, right? Like TJ Otzelberger should, to me now. All right, now with Lamont Paris losing these last 2 games, and today's was a tough one. You can't lose to LSU at home. That's a bad one. The last one when they came here and lost by 40, all right, like it was a bad loss, but it's still losing at the Jungle. Now I wonder if I'm polling you right now who the National Coach of the Year is, and you can't vote for your boy, Danny Hurley. I might TJ Otzelberger. Why not? Tell me why not.
I mean, he's right there. There is no reason why not. He's right there.
I mean, he's done an insane job this year.
Yes. Yeah.
Insane. I mean, again,
where do they? But serious question. Where do they stand for you in terms of being able to win that league?
Okay. Listen. They've got a scorer in Gilbert who's a veteran. Okay. They've got one of the best point guards in America in Taman Lipsey. They've got a freshman in Milan who can shoot the shit out of the basketball.
What's his last name?
Milosevic.
Shilovic.
I mean, that's a pretty good trio to start with because they're all different.
And they got guys that know their roles. They got big guys that
guard. They play hard. That's a trademark of TJ's team. So I'm starting to respect them more. Am I betting my house on them? No. But could they be a Sweet 16 team? Maybe even an Elite 8 team? Why not?
You know what they remind me of? They remind me of the Chris Beard Texas Tech teams. And what I mean by that is they, outside of the one that made the national title game, right? He had 2 or 3 teams there where they were really, really good defensively. And on the nights when they were good enough offensively, they had a chance to make it run.
These guys have a great point guard. That's the difference. They have a great point guard
and a guy a scorer that can go out and win stuff for you. So I still think that Houston is probably the best team.
They are.
Houston is the best team.
They are. Especially when LJ Cryer shoots it like
Let me look at Iowa State's roster. I'm bringing up their roster right now. So this is what they got the rest of the season. Well, they're at Houston on Monday. You want to win the league?
Win that game. You win that game? You want people to take you seriously?
I mean, you don't. Wow. That's not. Then they have West Virginia at home.
No, but
Oklahoma
if they do that,
hold on. Listen to the rest of their schedule.
Easy.
West Virginia at home, Oklahoma at home, at UCF, BYU at home, at Kansas State.
They could win them all.
They could legitimately go 5-1 down the stretch.
They might win this.
I'm writing off the game at Houston as a loss, right?
But if they win that, driver's seat.
Without a doubt.
It's a big game.
This has been the Field of 68 After Dark live on Sirius XM, Channel 84. Make sure you stay and hang around. We're going to be doing the afters here for about 20 to 25 minutes.
Might even see if you
Neville
can beat
Arena,
Dylan Carwell in a free throw shooting contest.
Only if you try to beat him in a dunk contest. This has been the Field of 68 After Dark, Sirius XM, Channel 84. Come over to the YouTube channel, jump in the chat, ask us questions. We'll see you there. We'll be answering them for about 20 minutes. Got a lot more to get to from today's college hoops. And we are live here. It is the Afters, Field of 68, After Dark, talking college basketball here today.
College basketball? That's what we're talking?
Talking college basketball. Okay. I'm trying to vamp get my thoughts collected on where we want to go next. Let's do this. It's one of my favorite things to do on the busy Saturday night slates where we can just kind of go big picture and fire stuff away. The biggest win of the day, the winner of the day, the team that, and you can't go with anyone with obviously Kentucky, right? Obviously UConn. Right?
If we talked about them, they're off limits.
Yeah. Out of everyone that we haven't gotten to yet, who was the biggest winner of the day? Who had the win that stood out to you the most in college basketball today?
For me, it might be TCU. going to Kansas State. Road win, big one for Jamie Dix. Like, you just never know. You lose that one. And again, not that Kansas State's not a tournament team, but it's a tough place to win. Road wins in the Big 12, they're important. So, I guess.
Hell of a game winner, too.
Oh,
hell of a game winner. For
Hell of that too, how they won it. I would say that one to me, and like another one that I would say, I don't want to take too many years, Florida at Georgia. Big one for the Gators, especially because they were down. Come back, you win that game, you're on the bubble, right? That could be the type of where you lose it if you lose it.
I think it's a quad too, so it's not like a devastating loss.
No, but that one, again, is a sneaky, important
Here's the
win.
thing about Florida, right? How much have we talked about Kentucky this season?
A ton.
We talked a lot about Kentucky this season, right? How much have we talked about South Carolina this season?
A good amount.
How much have we talked about Auburn this season?
Yeah, a ton.
Would you be surprised if I told you that Florida was tied with all three of those teams for third place in the SEC regular season standings right now?
Yeah, no. Todd Golden's done a great
They've
job
won
lately.
at Kentucky.
Yeah.
Right? They have won. Let me bring it up here before I start. I think they won like 5 or 6 in a row at this point. They've really gotten things going, and they have the thing about Florida is there's talent on that roster. They got shot
veteran
makers,
guards.
They got guards.
Yeah.
Riley Kugel is a stud. They've won 3 in a row and 7 out of 8. That's what it is. 2 of those games were in overtime, and the one loss was at Texas A&M.
Yep.
I believe it was a 1-possession game, a 1-point game. Was that the game winner? That was the game winner, right? Yeah. So they are one basket away from having won 8 straight games here, and that says a lot about what that team is, what Todd Golden's been able to do. They are 2 games out of first place in the SEC, and nobody is really.
So who's your team that got the biggest win? Give me who you got. You got somebody else?
Yeah, I do. It's Creighton. Creighton going on the road, beating Butler by 22. It is the loss that cost me the vaulted challenge bracket against Zeus. It's the reason why I lost.
If you don't know who Zeus is a dog.
Yeah, if you don't know who Zeus is, I don't know what you're doing with your life right now. Everybody knows who Zeus is. No, but it mattered because Butler is a good team. They're not a great team, but they're a tournament team where
Are they definitely a tournament team?
Yes, I think they've won at Creighton and they've won at Marquette.
Okay.
They're a tournament team. They're
All
going to find a way to get themselves in. I mean, look, they can still lose. They're not a lock because when you are where they are, they're not a lock. But if the tournament started today, they would be in the NCAA tournament. They were 2.5-point underdogs. That tells you what you need to know about this Creighton team. But Creighton going in there and beating them the way that they did, Shireman playing the way that he played, they are now just a game out of second place in the Big East regular season standings.
But that's kind of where they should be.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they should. To me, they should have been. I mean, it's funny. Most people, what was UConn pick preseason 4 in the Big East?
Last year they were.
Wasn't it this year? They were 3 or 4.
No, I think it was. I don't remember what it was, but they were like all 3 of them are right there. Marquette, Creighton, UConn.
I think it was Marquette,
Villanova
then Creighton
was right there.
I think Villanova might have been 3 and UConn was 4.
I think you might be right. Yeah, you might be right.
Right?
Yeah, you might. Yeah, you're right. You know what? You are right.
I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy to think UConn was picked. But again, people didn't know. They just didn't know. Yeah, I mean, this Creighton team, again, if you look at their top 4 players, you're like, I'll put their top 4 against most teams. Unfortunately, again, they don't have a lot of depth.
What did we say on the drive today?
4-on-4.
That if college basketball is a 4-on-4 game, then Duke and
Kansas
and Creighton would be playing for the national title.
Yeah. No, listen. I mean, again, I think it was a good win because Creighton needs to stack good wins, and that was one. I'm trying to think. I didn't think there were a lot of like these marquee wins today because a lot of these teams. Yeah, that Virginia beating Wake Forest was a big one for Tony Bennett.
Making what, like 1 free throw?
Or they were 1 for 11.
1 for 11 from the free throw
line. And it was the last one.
You know what's funny about that? Virginia shot better from the free throw line than you do.
There's no way. I mean, right now, I'll go out there and challenge Cardwell right here. Right here, right now.
Wait until the end of the show, and then you can embarrass yourself by doing that. You want to do worst loss now?
There's a lot of those. Yes, I got a lot.
A lot of bad
I got 4. I got 4 written down.
All right. Can I tell you what I think the biggest one is for me?
Yeah.
South Carolina at home, blowing a lead. LSU.
Yes.
You had a chance to keep pace with Alabama for first place.
The only thing I'll say to that, I agree with you, obviously. If you told them on Paris right now, that they would still be. What are they right now? What's South Carolina right now?
9-4 in the SEC, 2 games out of first place.
Yeah, they're 21-5 and 9-4.
But no, here's why.
Do you think he'd sign up for that?
Here's why it's bad. Because on Tuesday you go on the road and you give 40 pieces in this building right here, and you come at home against one of the teams at the bottom of the league. Like, you should be running them out of the gym.
I can't argue with you there because, again, this could start a spiral. That's what I'm worried about with South Carolina right now. Is they were playing with a swagger. They weren't worried. They weren't looking in the mirror and saying, like, shit, what's wrong? Now I think they look in the mirror and they're like, oh, shit, what's going on? They're finally dealing with adversity. Two straight games now where you're like questioning yourself a little bit. So I'm with you. Listen, that one, it was shocking. That was the most shocking one. I'll tell you one. I mean, Wisconsin. I mean, they're free falling right now.
That was the other one that I was.
Yeah, they've lost 5 or 6. They lose at Iowa in overtime, and the Badgers were so good. I mean, again, 3 weeks ago they were number 6 in the country. 3 weeks ago, 3 weeks from tomorrow, they were number 6 in the country.
They've now lost 6 out of 7, and you know who the one win was?
Who?
Chris Holtman, R.I.P.
That's right. That's right. So that was a rough one. Again,
I got another one for you.
Yeah, I got one more too. Go ahead.
Indiana State.
Oh, they lost. I didn't see it to Southern Illinois.
Yeah,
they're up late. I didn't see that.
Southern Illinois.
Shit.
And the reason why
that might be the worst loss of the day.
Reason why that's problematic is they just lost at home to Illinois State.
And I hate that because you want at-large mid-majors. We want those. And who do we have now?
You don't really have one.
I mean, that's like it.
You don't really have Grand Canyon, maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
They're a maybe.
Yep. Maybe.
Yeah, that's a bad one.
Maybe Will Wade can play.
You know what? Again, another reason why it's a bad one is because they just lost on Wednesday night at home to kind of put themselves in a very difficult position.
And I tweeted that. I said they can't afford many more.
They couldn't afford any more. And they went out and lost this one. So you got 3 games left of their season. They're at Valpo, USC at home, at Evansville. Like, they have to win every one of those games.
Oh, yeah. They can't lose.
They got to win them by 100.
They cannot lose another. And then they have to get to the title game.
They probably have to.
They get to the title game and lose to Drake.
Yeah. The one good thing is that Southern Illinois is actually a pretty good team, right? So that's not going to be the kind of killer to your resume that losing at home to Illinois State was. But, yeah, it ain't pretty.
All right. So I know conference record doesn't matter when they look at the resumes and everything. But when you're 7-7 in the ACC, and the ACC is pretty average, like, what does that say to you?
Not good.
That's Clemson right now. They lost at home to NC State today. Now, thank goodness they had that win last week at North Carolina, because if they didn't have that right now, you'd be like, I'm not sure they're going to make the tournament again. Like, is Brad Burnell going to be fired? Right?
I think that they're going to be fine.
No, I do too. I do too. But here's the thing. You say that, and they have, like, at Georgia Tech next. What if they lose at Georgia Tech, Rob?
Well, look, anybody, unless you are, right, there's like probably 12 teams right now
that are
absolute locks. Right? They're absolutely no questions asked.
I go a little deeper than that. I go a little deeper. I mean, again, I'm not saying Clemson's going to go 0-6. You know, they still have at Notre Dame. They don't have the toughest schedule. They'll be fine, but they probably can't go 2-4. They can't go 2-4.
If they go 2-4, they're 9-11 in the ACC.
I'm saying there's no way they can be it.
That's bad.
Right.
That's not good.
So they still have some work to do. They probably, if they're 4-2, they get in no problem. 3-3, and you lose first round of the ACC tournament, your first game, then you're probably sweating it out a little bit, and you're like a 12 seed.
Yeah, it doesn't help them that big win at North Carolina doesn't really look all that great anymore, or at least
it's
it's
still
the same
pretty
level,
good.
At least it's the same level as what it was before. It was like, okay,
it's still good.
Teams in America.
It's still good.
Yeah.
That's a game changing win of, like, if you're on the bubble or not, you're going to get in.
Yep. Anything else that you want to hit on from
today?
Yeah, from like a top down level.
You want to talk about your cigar last night?
It was a delicious cigar. It was a fantastic cigar.
Anything else today that stood out that much? I think we've covered most of them. Arizona beat Arizona State by like 142 points.
I told you this. Actually, wow. I don't know if I told you what my take was on Arizona. Okay. I feel like Arizona this year.
Are they underrated now?
No. I feel like they're giving me some UConn last year vibes. It's not the exact same thing, but if you look at the way that things kind of played out for them last season, UConn last season, right? They were awesome at the start of the year. They go through this stretch in January in league play where teams kind of figure them out. The guy who's like their X factor, Andre Jackson, is in his head. He's not playing well. They're really struggling. And then once they figure out how to get him going again, they make this a great run at the end of the season and streak all the way to a national title. Yep. You look at Arizona this year, they start out there's a ball rolling behind us. They start out 8-0. Their 2 losses are at Purdue, who was number 1 at the time.
Yeah.
And that double overtime thriller when Nelly Davis goes nuts.
And the Purdue game, they played well.
Yeah, and FAU. Right. But then they start league play, and it's just kind of like, okay, Kai Boswell isn't playing great. This team is struggling. They beat UCLA, but they're down by 20 at home to UCLA.
Well, and are they bored? Because remember how bad UCLA was then.
Yeah, and then
they were awful.
And then you kind of, once they get Kai Boswell going again and he figures it out, then they make this run at the end of the year. And now they've won, I think they've won 6 in a row, and they're just kicking the shit out of teams again. And I do feel like I'm getting some vibes of UConn 2023 from Arizona. And I know that they were a 1 seed. I know that people are kind of
there are just so many more questions with consistency with this team right now. Like, is Boswell going to be consistent? Can you trust Caleb Love? Like, again, I mean, the beauty of Caleb Love is he can have 2 or 3 of these games back to back and propel you by himself. Keyshawn Johnson's terrific. Ballo's a veteran big, right? Jaden Bradley coming off they got a lot of pieces. They got a lot of good pieces. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me if they went to the Final Four at all. At all. They might be the 3rd best team in the country. Still.
It's not might. It's not mine.
You think they're the 3rd best team in the country?
Oh, no. Let me phrase that. I think that they are very much in that conversation.
Yeah, I agree. Best team. I don't think there is a 3rd best team in the country.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument that a lot of different teams are. Anything else? I'm kind of scrolling through it right now.
I think we take some questions from the chat.
All right, Trevor, you got any questions for us coming in the chat? And there's no granted involved. Like, that's just 41 is 41, man. You get 40, doesn't matter who it's against. 40 is 40.
Didn't he have like 37? It was like Louisville 38, Blake Hinson 37.
No, he had 38 and Louisville had 37.
So he was up on Louisville.
Yeah, he was beating Louisville by himself midway through the second half. Yes.
And then Kenny Payne decided he was going to ramp things up a little bit.
Yeah.
And outscore Blake Hinson at least.
Yeah.
He didn't win the game.
Yeah. For the record,
my question to you, okay, so I've gotten a lot of pushback lately. A lot of people calling me and asking me, is there a chance Kenny Payne keeps his job beyond this year? Because he'll have some support within the community. Some of the some of the older people that are Kenny Payne fans and saying like he should get more than 2 years. What's your take on that?
I think, honestly, it all kind of depends on whether or not you can get the guy that you think is the right guy, you know?
But why? You're going to get an upgrade no matter what.
Yeah, I think, look.
Like, you got to get back to at least respectability. Like, yeah, it'd be great if you hit a home run. It'd be great if you got a guy that was going to be an absolute home run, whether, I don't know who, Chris Beard, Dusty May, whoever you want to throw in there, right? But ultimately, whoever will do a better job, in my opinion, than Kenny Payne has done. Whoever you hire is going to do better.
I
feel like you could take over.
I think for the most part,
you could win more games than Kenny Payne won.
I think for the most part that you should not fire coaches after 2 or 3 years, right? You should not pull the plug after 2 or 3 years.
So good.
Can you let me finish my thought?
Oh my God,
please?
this program is
I'm
so
going to have
good.
Marlene come over here and shut off your microphone.
I don't think she would do that.
So I think for the most part that you should not do that. I also think that there are certain instances where you can look at the situation and say, we got this one wrong. we need to start over.
We need to pull the plug.
And I think this is one of those ones where you can look at it and you say, we got this one wrong. We need to start over. And I know that it sucks, and I know that he's an alum, and I know that he's Kenny Payne, and I know that you want to be able to do right by your guys. I think it's very hard to justify look, not just very hard. I think it's impossible to justify keeping him around for another year.
It's Louisville.
Without saying we're just doing this because he's our guy.
It's Louisville. Yep. You know, this isn't like Georgia. This is Louisville. This is one of the best programs in America. And it's sunk to an embarrassing state where winning any game is celebrated. It doesn't matter who it is.
Wrong. You're not wrong. All right, let's take a couple more. Trevor, give us another question.
Matt says, can you please talk about Illinois' win at Maryland, their first win there in 13 years?
I mean, Maryland's not great this year. Kevin Willard needs to get his ass off of the court when the game is being played. We need to have some kind of rule to change. It's insane how many times we're having issues with this year. I mean, it's a good win, right? A win is a win. If you're Illinois, you can't lose that one. I don't think – and Trevor is our resident Illinois fan that watches the team a lot more closely than I think anybody on the show does, anybody in the chat does, anybody in the United States of America, anybody in Champaign, anybody that reads the Illini Inquirer, anybody point blank period. He watches more of them. What I will say is this. It feels like Terrence Shannon is kind of figuring some things out. It feels like he's starting to get right.
Well, here you want me to read you his numbers the last 3 games?
I know he had
28
today?
against Michigan State.
Yeah.
31 against Michigan, 27 at Maryland. Now,
so my spidey sense is tingling saying that he was playing a little bit better. You know what? He's averaging 28.3 points over that stretch. Good job, Rob.
Here's the thing that to me stands out more than anything. Like 2 of those on the road. Mm-hmm. It's going to be easy for him at home. If he can do this on the road, what does it tell you about him?
I mean, he's got it going, and when he's got it going, it changes what Illinois' ceiling is.
Because he's getting heckled every road game. He's going to get it. And if he can do that, it shows he can deal with whatever's coming his way when he's not at the confines of
let me ask you this. Terrence Shannon at this level, when he's this guy, when he is the I don't want to say he's got to get 28 a night, but
he's not shooting it like he was prior.
But if he's the 22 point per game guy again,
yeah.
Where's Illinois in your pecking order when it comes to Final Four contenders? Like, they're not UConn and Purdue. I don't think I'd have them at the level of North Carolina, Arizona, Houston. Would you have them anywhere?
No, none of them. Why? Why wouldn't you have them at the level? Well, Arizona still, I wonder, but. Why wouldn't you have them at the level of Houston or Carolina? Point guard play. I just don't think a team without a point guard is going to win 4 straight games like this. I'd be very surprised.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I love them. Like, they're the ultimate team that if they could have made a trade, I forget who we did this with. It might have been Seth Davis. But a trade they could make. Like,
you know what would have been nice?
A point guard.
Ray J. Dennis
would have been huge for them. I mean, think about it. Then you would have been like, holy shit, this team can win the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
They can win the whole thing. Like, and Ty Rodgers has played better. He's been better. But again,
what it is they're kind of figuring out how to be able to take advantage of what he can do without compromising what they are on the offensive end. You know, like, it's not like he's a bad basketball player. It's just that he has some flaws that can be exploited in a setting where he kind of has to play the role that he's being asked to play, and they're kind of figuring that out. And they're.
Listen, Domaska's been better. Coleman's been better since everything happened. He's been better.
I think Coleman Hawkins is. I love the idea of Coleman Hawkins. Like, when he is at his best, when you got a 6'10" dude that can shoot it, that can guard the way that he can guard, that can pass the way that he can pass. When he's at his best, he's
8 of his last 9 games in double figures.
Yeah, like when he's really good, that's when Illinois becomes like a very real problem. So, good win. Nice to see Terrence Shannon kind of reach these levels again if you're an Illinois fan. Trevor, let's get one more question from the chat, then we'll do toast of the night.
Yep, last one from the chat. What do you guys think of Arkansas? They're now 12-13, another loss today. You haven't talked about them lately. That's from John.
Well, for what? I mean, honestly, they're not a tournament team. So either you're talking about teams right now that are whatever 12-13 for two reasons. You're talking about teams for two reasons. One, if they're a tournament team, or one, if their coach is going to get fired. Right? I mean, that's it. And Muss is in between. The only thing with Muss is, does he want out? Does he want out Arkansas? I've certainly heard he's going to look to get in the move, but can he get Louisville? Can he get Ohio State? Can he get one of these jobs that make it, enough for him to make that move? Like, I still don't understand it because it's been 1 year. I mean, Muss has done a hell of a job there the last few years. He's raised the expectation. He's made them relevant nationally, something Mike Anderson couldn't do for a decade.
If he leaves, that is going to be a very
Depends
coveted
who goes
job.
there.
It's
Yeah.
going to be a coveted job.
No doubt.
A lot of people are going to end up on that job. Trevor, do you have anything
Final
else?
question. Final question. The chat is begging Jeff to shoot a free throw.
Yeah, we're not going to do it tonight. We're not going to bother these dudes.
Yeah, they're working
out after
a
not a great loss. So if they had won, I would absolutely go and tell Cardwell I'll embarrass myself, but we're not going to do it tonight.
Not tonight. All right, let's get to toast of the night. I'm going to let you kick it off.
Toast of the night tonight. I mean, listen, how do you not give it to Kentucky? They came in here into Auburn and beat them handily like this. Like, I think you got to start there. I might give one more, but I'm going to start. I'm going to start with Kentucky. We're here. Nobody, and they said this in the postgame. Both Onyensu and Antonio Reeves said, like, we heard it. Nobody thought we could win here. Mm-hmm. Nobody. So we played freer. You mentioned this earlier in the show. Mm-hmm. They played with a little bit of just like we have nothing to lose kind of attitude, and it worked. And now they've got their swagger back a little bit, and now they've got a little bit of a blueprint, Rob. A little bit of a blueprint of like, oh, if we really guard, yeah, shit, we could be pretty good. So congrats.
I was going to go, I have like 3 written down. Yeah. One of mine was going to be Antonio Reeves for a lot of reasons you just mentioned. But the simple fact that I called him the silencer tonight. Like every single time that Auburn started making that run, started getting the fans making some noise, started getting loud, it started turning into the environment that we all know that this can be. He was the one that made it quiet again. So he was very, very good. All right. My second one.
Go ahead.
The Princeton Tigers.
That was a good one.
Taking down Yale.
Yeah. I have my
in
Yale
Jadwin
hat.
Gym.
Hold on.
In Jadwin Gymnasium. They go at home and they knock off the one of the 2 remaining winless undefeated teams in conference play. So the Yale Bulldogs went down.
Do you like the hat or no?
I do. I'm a big Yale.
I know you are.
I love the Eli's.
You just like the pizza.
I love the Eli's. Payne Whitney Gym. I grew up in Payne Whitney Gym. And the last one that I have, Tommy Bruner of the Denver Pioneers had 41 tonight, scored 30 in the second half as they came back from 20 points down to beat North Dakota State. According to our guy, Ryan Powell, over at the Summit League, he finished with 41, and it is the first player in college basketball this year to have 2 40-point games. So cheers to Tommy Bruner. Last one you got? You know who my toast is going out to? My man Scooter. My man Scooter. He's a Kentucky fan that made the trip to he lives in Birmingham, made the trip to Auburn Arena, and let's just say he was enjoying the night with our guy Josh Hopkins.
Yeah, I'll toast to Josh Hopkins.
Yeah, he's having a hell of a night tonight.
Josh is probably still out drinking right now. I didn't know Josh went to Auburn. Josh, for people that don't know, actor, huge Kentucky fan, been friendly with him for years now. And he told me he went to Auburn.
Yep.
So I said, you got your degree, right? And he just kind of laughed because, he left probably halfway through, 2.5 years in, to go out to California, LA, and chase his dream. And
it worked out for him.
Yeah, sure did.
Made the right decision. You don't need a degree if you could already get paid.
No.
Listen, this has been the Field of 68 After Dark live from Neville Arena here in Auburn, Alabama. For Jeff Goodman.
Thanks to Marlene.
For the nerd. Can you let me get to my toes? Look at this. He cut me off again,
I
Marlene.
want you not to forget to thank.
So for Jeff Goodman, for Matt Norlander, for our producer, Trevor Valise, thank you to Marlene, Auburn's SID, for getting it done. Shout out to Scooter.
She's still working hard here, too.
My name is Rob Dauster. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.